Hello everyone, welcome back to another video by former mental health carer Matthew Mckenzie. Now I haven't done a video for quite a while. I've just been so busy running my carer groups in South London and doing a lot of write-up about carers' experiences on my website, and I've been doing quite a few projects as well. But the reason I thought I'd do another video, because it's been almost a month I suppose that since I've done a last video, is I've also been writing my book about my care's experiences. Now the book is due for release, let's say probably about 2 weeks time, or perhaps the end of next month. I don't know as yet, but I certainly will release it really soon. And the book is called A Care in Mind. But I don't want to talk too much about the book. The book involves a lot of things, and I'll be doing more videos about what's inside that book that I've written due to my experiences as being a carer over the years. But this particular video is about telling your story as a carer. And one of the chapters in my book is about my story. In that chapter, I think which is chapter 2, about my story as a carer, I tend to explain the reasons, why I took on the caring role for my mother and also helping out my brothers. And also explain, what the things I experienced when I was caring. I explained a bit about my carer's journey and how it changed over time, and what I learned about being a carer. But this video that I'm doing here now is mainly about just why it's important to tell your story as a carer, especially if you're caring for someone now. I want to delve a bit more closely into the importance of telling your story as a carer. And a few things I want to point out is that what you do when you tell your story as a carer is that you shine a spotlight, or at least you highlight specific issues when you tell your story as a carer. Other things would be like, if you tell your story as a carer, it's a way of forming connections to those who are listening to your story, and usually it could be other carers. Um, I find it's a way of release when you're telling your story, especially if your carer's journey was very difficult. So it's a form of release when you just want to tell others, this is what I've experienced, this is what I've gone through, and you're sharing it with others, even if it might not be a difficult journey. It's a way of releasing that out there. There are other main reasons and why it's important to tell your story as a carer, but I think probably the most biggest reason would be that you're actually educating others when you're telling your story. Now, I've mentioned before that you'll probably be more likely telling your story to other carers. I'm not sure. But in the past, when I've told my story, and it could be at events or conferences, I found it was a way to educate not only the audience, but within the audience, you could have other carers and specifically health professionals, those who provided health and support for your loved one or the person you're caring for. So you're educating the professionals, be it from health or social care. Now, I've looked around as to why it is really important to tell your story as a carer, and I've come across this report, or document, I suppose, in 2015. And I think it's still more relevant today than what it was back in 2015. The actual report or document is actually from NHS England, and basically what the title of this document basically is, using stories to improve patient, carer, and staff experiences and outcomes. Now, taken from this report, it mentions stories of staff, patient, and care experiences and journeys through their health system enables NHS to redesign and improve care according to the patient's needs or the carer's needs, where every step of the patient journey is examined and improved. Now, I want to obviously extend that to also the carer. I want to focus on the carer, obviously, but the whole aim of telling your story in some sense would be to improve how the health system works, how local authorities provide carers support to carers such as yourself, if you're watching this video as a carer. There's obviously, there's other reasons why you would want to into telling your story as a carer in order to improve health and social care systems. I mean, a good example, and this is again also raised in that document, is when health and social care do events and they want to look into what happened due to a serious incident or a death. They want to improve the approaches or systems regarding complaints, or what worked well and what didn't. They would look at perhaps, and this is a very good example, they would look at, let's say, promotion of a service, perhaps in a ward or in a GP practice or surgery, and they would display perhaps information leaflets or poster regarding um, what's happened in a particular service. And the only way to, or one of the best ways to promote such a service, is to have a carer or patient tell their story at that event. But there are many other reasons in regards to telling your story, um, to improve the outcomes and redesign or improving health and social care systems. So let's go forward a bit more into how you can even form your own carer story, isn't easy, but you have to start somewhere. And the aim is to get that story out. Now, what I was told in the past when I was caring for my mum is to perhaps do a journal of, you know, perhaps every day if you can, or maybe once a week, on how things have been developing, because you can look back and look into that journal and say, okay, I tried this, it didn't work out. What else can I try in my caring role? And initially, I thought when you do a journal, it wasn't really about to form a story. It was about to keep an eye on if anything goes wrong, and you can provide evidence, and it can help in writing a doctor's letter if there's a particular issue or symptom that the person you are caring for suffered. But it can also be used to form your own carer's story. And another way, I suppose, you can actually form that carer story and focus on how you did provide that care was just to give like an overview of your caring duties, and not only what you found difficult about caring, but also what you enjoyed in the carer's experiences. If it becomes really that difficult, I'm sure no one would want to be a carer. But to be fair, some people do step back from their caring role. So lastly, what I want to talk about really is where you would want to tell your carer story. Now, I found the easiest way that I, in the past, have told my carer story was probably at, let's say, carer support groups, because what would happen at a carer support group is that they would speak to each carer at that group and say, say to them how things going along for yourself. So I think that's be an easier way of building up the confidence to tell your story. Another way is what I'm doing now. If you have a fair bit of technical knowledge, there's no reason why you can't develop an online video on YouTube and just slowly develop, let's say, a carer's focus out of that video channel and tell your story as a carer. Another way is obviously at events. I've mentioned them before in this video: events, conferences, promotions. Specifically, if at a mental health trust, I was caring for someone who used mental health services, and I know my local mental health trust did put on carer conferences or carer events, or even mental health events, and they would invite a carer to tell their story, or even at board meetings or NHS training courses. Again, they would invite carers to tell their story, and it's a way of some form of co-production and getting involved. Another way would be to blog your story. If you have a website or blog site, there's no reason why you can't blog about your carer story. It's fairly easy. And also you could do what I've done, immortalize your story in a book. But be aware that it's important to have some aspect into confidentiality when you tell your story. And if the person is still alive, or if there's others involved in that story, please try and think about confidentiality unless you agree with them that you're happy to mention them in your book or in your story. In conclusion, I've noticed Carers Trust, a major carers charity in the UK, encourage carers to tell their story. And I like to do the same, as a carer activist, I suppose, which is perhaps more of my role now than ever. You know, I don't think it even matters, even if you're a carer or former carer, it's always good to try and tell your story. Never tire of telling your story again, because it does educate others, and it's a way of telling others about your identity, your carer's identity, and how it's been a main part of your life. Thank you for watching, and I'll do another video soon.